Moment in history where John Calvin, who was the reformer who went to Geneva, Switzerland, and really provided from his background legal. At one point he wanted to be a lawyer and ended up being converted and decided that theology was his forte. He just wanted to write theology, but the Reformation had taken place and it had tremendous political impact. It was literally overturning the map of government. And in that day, if you were a Catholic state, you were aligned politically and militarily. If the Pope goes on a crusade, you're funding it and you're giving soldiers. So it was a serious, it's almost like a NATO on steroids with you're all serving the Pope. And so when the Reformation happened, states started breaking away from Catholicism. It was a big deal. And Calvin wanted to do like Mercedes is talking about, these preachers that are saying, oh, stay away from controversy, stay away from COVID, stay away from politics, stay away, and just focus on the rapture. I believe there's a formula for missing the rapture. It's called sin, and selfishness is a very interesting type of form of sin. It's the kind of sin that most people don't think of. Do you know that there are sins of omission and sins of commission? We always focus obsessively on the sins of commission. Adultery, pornography, drug abuse, murder, theft. But it's the omission that'll kill you. It's what you were supposed to do that you didn't do. And you see, a lot of Christians are cowards, but they hide behind past being a Christian to not go to war. So you see, if you're afraid to go to war, and you say, but I'm a conscientious objector, I'm a pacifist. And the reality is, you just don't want to get involved with that ugly fight out there. That's a lot of preachers. They're avoiding getting in the culture war, where the war is, the battle of big ideas, because they'll have casualties in their ranks. There's going to be people that'll leave their church or go off their mailing list. There are people that stop giving to them the moment they wade into having an opinion, so they become almost, politicians in ambiguity. And so, I don't get involved with this. And you never hear them say something that costs them anything because they're not fighting. They're politicians in the pulpit. And so what I want you to catch is with Calvin, he was going in the direction of being a politician in the pulpit. He said, I'm a theologian, I will write my studies. And God sent a prophet to him who said to him, and this is very powerful words, God curse your studies if now in the hour when he needs you most, you refuse to show up and instead retire to what you want to do with your ministry. The fear of God hit Calvin. God curse your studies if at the hour when you are needed most, you retire from the battle. Well, that was what made Calvin repent and get involved with being the dynamic force he was for the Reformation in Europe. And history says that he made a far better contribution by getting involved in the battle than sitting on the sidelines doing podcasts. So I would like to say to you right now that everything we're doing in this broadcast is an effort to talk to the populist awakening. I'm talking about a Christian populist movement. I'm telling you that we're not big enough to make up the majority of America. But we're half of the Republican Party, and for 40% of it. And as 40% of the Republican Party, and you got to understand this, we have to have these conversations, people. You may not like everything about the Republican Party, but you need to have an entity that goes up against the left. Stalin and Churchill actually worked together with FDR to defeat Nazi Germany. You know why? Because as bad as Stalin was, they found common ground in having to defeat a greater danger. And so where we are now is we have to find common ground with all good people that want to save America. And you can't insist that they all become your theological convert. But you have to find the common ground with people in order to move as one in the arena of political competition so that your party. See, here's what Napoleon did. Napoleon did this thing in his Austerlitz campaign. It's a piece of military genius. He had to deal with the Austrian, Hungary. There was a whole alliance of Europe coming against him, and they were joining forces with Prussia that was coming to join them. And what Napoleon did was he pivoted quickly to defeat the Austrian alliance, and then he turned to the other side to go defeat the Russian. I said this all the way back when Trump was running for office, and I said it to a group of military guys. I said, what Christians are going to have to learn how to do is we're going to have to learn how to push back and defeat the Marxist socialists from getting in office. And then we've got to pivot and get rid of the weak, compromised, swampy country club Republicans that will sell us down the river and put us in perpetual debt because they're not patriots. They're interested in padding their wallets with big donors in Washington. In other words, the first order of evil is we got to stop these Marxists and socialists from getting more power. That's the Democrats. Then we have to pivot and clean out the Republicans. We've got till 2022. And trust me, people, what I'm saying isn't weird stuff. Anyone that's got any kind of a scintilla of knowledge about what's going on in America right now knows we have to have unity and we have to move smart. And we don't need weak preachers right now. We need people that'll put a spine into Christians. Thoughts, Mercedes?
And we need to move as one. I mean, that's one of your catchphrases that you kind of use at all your events, is this idea of us moving in unity. And one of the other things I've heard you say, Lance, I mean, when you think about the size of, let's just say people of faith in the United States, people that would ascribe to a Judeo-Christian worldview. I mean, 70% of the country, 60% of the country. And when you think about some of this woke radical agenda with, let's just say transgenderism, which is like 1% of our country, and how that is legislated and it's been made cool. It's been made popular through media, through arts and entertainment. Just an example, like the gay community is probably 3% of our nation, yet it's in every single television show. It's I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. It's in music. It's all over the place. And there's this element that I think about where we have to make Christianity cool again. We have to make righteousness cool again. Purity. I mean, I went to an event this week where they were praying that Roe v. Wade would be overturned, and my heart says yes to that. Of course, let's say yes to saving millions of innocent lives that are aborted in the name of convenience. But the root of that, when you say lay that axe to the root of an issue, the root is sexual immorality. The root is the church hasn't spoken out against, the people sleeping together and coming to church the next day, or the divorce rate in the church. I mean, there's root issues here, and it's like, when is that going to become popular again? Like I've never seen that in my lifetime. Maybe when in the 60s, Lance, or the 70s, that happened for you, but I've never seen a move of God like that. And so with what we have now, there's still more of us than there are of them. And when I say that, I mean the woke agenda. And so when we push for a biblical worldview, or we push for things that are righteous in the eyes of God, I don't know when we're going to fully wake up to how the battle for nations is actually played, that you have to leave your prayer closet. It's not enough to be in your prayer closet. It's not enough to go to Bible study or go to church. You're going to have to engage civically.
Hey man, listen, if you guys that are listening to this, because I'm going to put this on my podcast. Our podcast right now is 250,000 downloads. I mean, my goal is to have higher ranking than National Public Radio, because it's national progressive radio as far as I'm concerned, and we every now and then we get bump up near them. We could actually overtake them, and I want you guys to hear. But we need to hear from you. How can they connect with us? Because if you want to be part of this Christian populist movement, that you get the fact that that America needs to have an awakening, and that without God intervening, we're in a cycle of like a corkscrew descending into judgment. If you believe that, but you also believe that it's not God's will that America perish, and that it is his will that America be saved, but that we're in a crisis moment where it's kind of like Esther appealing to the king in the Old Testament to not kill all the Jews. And he says, all right, I can't undo what's been done, but you can at least arm yourself and protect yourself from annihilation. And so you and I are called to arm ourselves and protect ourselves from annihilation. And the phase we're in right now is we do it politically, and we do it with our money, and we do it with our buying power, and we do it with our voices, because the left is not the majority. They are only like 25% of the country. 25% of the country will love Biden, even if they approve $10 trillion, if he calls all of you racist, supremacists, insurrectionists, and puts you in prison, he'll still have 20% of the country that'll say, yay. So they're crazy. But they're not the majority. The majority of America is center-right. It's just that we've never organized and seen the battle like we're seeing it now. That's where the populist movement kicks in.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to be part of that, Mercedes, how do they get in touch with us?
I mean, right now, I would say the best way to do that is to go to Lance's website and sign up. Get in our newsletter. We do a daily newsletter that's going out on the top issues, Lance's commentary on it. That's the best way to get signed up right now, because Lance, somebody's going to have to do something, and I feel like it's going to be us. I feel like we're going to have to do almost like a tour next year of just populist. It's a whole mix. I think it's going to be a blend of like entertainment. It's going to be you playing the piano.
I love it.
I
love it. And listen, in Real America's Voice, I think we could do this thing. We've talked about it. Those guys are great at their Real America's Voice. We could do the Real America's Voice. You guys could be in the studio audience. Wouldn't you love to be with us in these audience? We need the live gathering of the people. We need to meet with the people.
Yeah.
Anyway, go to lancewallnau.com. It's WALLNAU, like build the wall now, wallnow.com, and sign up and join the movement, because things are about to get very exciting. Do you know, the information world is so strange right now. I've actually got a team of people to flag me on what I cannot say and what I can say, simply because whether it's Facebook or YouTube or another platform, there's a certain kind of restriction on what you could say. That's why I decided, all right, I'll do what I can on these platforms, but I've got to speak the truth. And I do that on a podcast. Right now, it's the Wild West still. You could say what you're thinking on a podcast, and I haven't been taken down. So you want to go to lancewallnau.com/podcast and find out why it is that our prophetic perspective on the news has moved us to one of the top 30, 40, or 50, it rotates, news podcasts in the United States. I'm just excited that we're down there in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. We're always going to be there because we're there speaking the truth, and people want to know the truth. lancewallnau.com/podcast. That's where I'm putting the juice right now.